So the first thing I want to tell you guys to do is to, first of all, just print out the music. You can get it off of IMSOP. It's public domain, which means the composer usually has been deceased for roughly 100 years or more. So I'd go ahead and print that out so that when I refer to specific measure numbers, you guys will be well aware of what I am referring to. So go print out the music. Stop the video. Alright, so now that you guys have printed out the music, I want to first talk about some systems of specific rhythms you'll be playing in the entertainer. Since the entertainer is a form of music, it's called a ragtime. There's a lot of syncopation in it. And so what syncopation basically means is there's a lot of offbeat enunciation. So where a downbeat is supposed to be, it's kind of offset. So you have to look out for things like that. So there'll be certain rhythms, such as in measure 5, where the main beat is displaced. It's displaced by half of a beat from the very beginning on in the right hand. So it sounds like this. So there's a lot of ties and sort of rhythmical offsets. So you have to look out for those. In the left hand, you don't really have to worry about that. It's just straight eighth notes throughout the piece. So just make sure you have a steady left hand and you should be all good as far as rhythm there. So let's talk about hand position. And so we're going to be talking about hand position for specifically the right hand first. So basically, what I want you guys to do in order to play some of the octaves in this piece, as well as some octaves in a third. So you'll have your do, your mi, so scale degree 1, scale degree 3, and then the octave on top. In order to play stuff like that, we're going to be basically practicing first inversion arpeggios, which will essentially shape your hand in a way so that your thumb and your first finger are spread apart more, so that they'll be more used to playing chords like this in this piece, because they're all over in this piece. So you should definitely help to shape your hand by doing exercises such as the first inversion arpeggio. So the next thing I want to go over is basically playing for the left hand. So in this piece, as I said before, it's basically straight eighth notes for the left hand all the way through. So you don't have to worry about any tricky rhythms there, except for a few octaves at some point, but we'll get there later with talking about specific measures to practice. But basically, I just want you guys to practice a habit of, or getting into a habit of putting your hand in a position and then playing. So when you have a jump, you shouldn't be jumping and then helicopter landing and playing. You should be sort of making the jump very quickly and then making a small I guess gesture of an arrival point, so that your left hand has arrived to its destination, and then settle your hand there and then play it. So that'll kind of look like this. I'll demonstrate for you guys. So here we have like a C major chord. And if we wanted to pop up to the next octave, instead of helicopter landing and just playing, we should play and then get there quickly. And once we're there, place and then play, so that we're more comfortable making leaps like this without coming in like a parachuter. So another main suggestion I have for practicing the entertainer is to practice with hands alone first. This goes to say for pretty much every single piano piece you play, but especially things like this where it has a lot of leaps around and technically difficult spots in this piece to practice. With both hands, you should definitely practice hands alone so that you can sort of iron out where things are placed in both hands, and to get whatever leaps or quick passages that are hard to play solidly down. As for some difficult passages in this piece that you guys will want to not overlook and really grind and practice those specific spots, are basically right before the repeat signs on pretty much every spot in this piece. There's always a sort of virtuosic ending to that certain section before it repeats. So you want to iron out like 3 or 4 measures before basically the transition into the next section. Those are the most important parts. They have a lot of octave jumps, so I would really grind those out as much as you can. To practice some of the more difficult spots in this piece, I would honestly, if you don't have the Hanon book of exercises, I would definitely invest in getting one of those, or there's books called Finger Power. They have exercises for pretty much all the different techniques that you'd ever need to learn on the piano. So if you need to do octaves like you do in the Entertainer, there's pretty much etudes in the book of Hanon or Finger Power to practice octaves. The specific exercise in the Hanon book that makes you play octaves in scales. So basically you want to open your book up to that number and you want to play the scale in octaves slowly and then work your way up. So to play the scales in octaves like you do in the Hanon exercise book, you basically want to just have a relaxed hand position where you can reach the octave and try and have as little tensity in your wrist and in your hand in general as much as possible. This is especially important for people that have hands that reach bigger than octaves, because sometimes we contort our hand position too much when we can really just kind of lay our hand there and play it fairly easily. So basically you want to just be secured on each octave and just work your way up and down. So another tip I'd give to playing the Entertainer is to only play your left hand as fast as you can play your right hand. So basically your left hand dictates, or your right hand dictates how fast your left hand must go, even though you have to stay with the left hand at all times. So what I mean by that is if you go too fast in your left hand, you will not be able to make it in your right hand. So be sure to follow what the left hand does and make sure your left hand is very precise and not too fast. As for dynamics in this piece, basically I would say every time a passage repeats, think about what you could do to make it sound different, right? So this goes for pretty much any piece in the music world. Whenever something repeats, something different has to happen. So to talk about some of the background of the Entertainer and Scott Joplin, I would basically say this piece is it's called Ragtime, as I said earlier. Basically, there's tons of syncopation, a lot of swing to it. So all you need to know basically is that the Entertainer is supposed to entertain people. So Scott Joplin would actually play this in a pub. He'd play it while, everybody's drinking on one of those old out of tune pianos. And you kind of just repeat it as many times as you wanted, just because it's got a really cool tune to it. It's very repeatable. So you could kind of imagine, random bar fights happening in the middle of this piece. And that would probably kind of help you to realize what exactly you're playing. It's not a sad piece at all. It's very lively. It's very fun. It's quite honestly just meant to entertain people. So keep that in mind. So building off of the point to, entertain people, you should definitely keep in mind to not play with nerves when you're playing this piece. It's a fun piece to play. You shouldn't be worried about trying to convey some deep emotion. It's just to have fun, and as long as you get the notes down, people will love it. It's a really cool tune. So I wish you all good luck with learning this, and I hope this helped. Alright, so now I'm going to demonstrate the piece for you all.